Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
And I am joined in the studio by Christina and Maria from Spence, Clarke. I'm amazed. Good morning, ladies. How are we all doing? Are we well?
Good morning, Giles.
Good morning. Just to say, I mean, this is August. This is the verano. What are you doing here? Spain shuts.
Honestly, we don't know.
But we... But it's interesting, okay, because we're all wearing our summer uniforms. It's
Yes.
good to see, you know, because the thing is, you see, August in Spain, there are two periods in the year, okay, where Spain shuts, right? And we are in this period now, August, okay? And the other one is after December 6th and 8th.
Exactly.
And then you have the week of almuerzos of the empresas, so you have the company parties.
Yes.
And then Spain is shut until after TRE. That's so that is for if you're on fijo, yeah, if you are working for a contract.
Yeah.
If you're autonomo, however, this is the other way around, because then you have a new game. Okay?
Exactly.
Which is basically, you have to make sure that your client pays you.
Of course.
Before the 30th of July, or by the 5th of December, or you've got 30 days of autónomo vacaciones, which is an entirely different thing. So, Christina and Maria, what are we talking? Who's going to kick off to this one? Is it Christina or Maria? Who's kicking off today?
Well, I will start.
You'll start. Well, okay,
Yeah.
let's start with the basics. So today we're talking about, because autonomos never have a holiday. Though they do, but you know, every day,
Yes,
yeah.
that's true.
So let's start with the basics. I'm self-employed in Spain. What can I legally deduct?
Well, there are quite few things that you can deduct, but there is one basic principle, which is the spending needs to be connected with your economic activity.
Okay.
You also need to the right supporting documentation. Normally, it's an invoice, and the spending needs to be properly recorded. It is also good practice to pay business expenses using a bank account or a card in the autonomous name. Okay?
Right.
This helps to create a clear payment trail and makes it easier to demonstrate it that the expense related to the business. In our office, we have seen many cases where expenses have been challenged because there was not enough evidence linking to the payment to the business. The important thing is being able to explain why that expense was necessary for your business.
Right.
That sounds very straightforward.
Yeah.
But it becomes much more interesting when we start talking about things that have both a professional and private uses, such as, for example, your car, your phone, or even your home.
I think the word here is interesting.
Yep.
Okay. So what are we looking at then, the everyday expenses that most autonomos can normally deduct?
Well, there is quite a broad range.
Okay. Yeah.
Professional services such as accountants, lawyers, and consultants can normally be deducted when they relate to the business. You can also have office rent, professional equipment, software, advertising and marketing costs, professional subscriptions, business insurance, and social security contributions.
Yeah.
Insurance is another interesting area. Business-related insurance, such as professional indemnity insurance, can generally be deductible. There are also specific rules allowing certain private health insurance premiums to be deducted, subject to limits and conditions.
Okay.
Training can also be deductible, where there is a clear connection with the economic activity. And there can also be financial expenses, such as certain bank charges.
Yeah.
And interest on business financing. So there are many legitimate deductions available. The important thing is not to think of it as a checklist where everything automatically qualifies. The circumstances of the individual business are always matters.
So just you can deduct the charges on certain like bank charges. You can say I'm being charged this by my bank because I'm autonomous, and that can be deducted.
Exactly. If it is related to your bank account, related to your autonomous activity, it could be deductible. Exactly.
I'm just thinking in my professional, it says professional subscriptions, my Spotify account, because I have to have music when I work. So maybe. So here I am. I've got my invoice. Will we talk about petrol later? Because this is all. But I've got an invoice. Yeah. Because that's always good fun. I've got an invoice. So I wait. And here I am waving my invoice in the air. Does this mean it's automatically deducted?
Well, you think that you're gonna say yes?
Yeah, I do.
But no.
Okay. You were looking at me and smiling.
Yeah, so I thought, No, because it has an explanation behind.
Of course.
And this is one of the most important things for self-employee to understand.
Yeah.
Because an invoice is very important, of course. But having an invoice does not automatically make something deductible.
Okay.
You also need to be able to demonstrate that the expense is related to your economy activity.
Yeah.
Okay. For example, imagine that you buy an expensive piece of equipment.
A camera. But I've got a camera.
Exactly.
And I get a really good camera.
Exactly. You have a perfectly valid invoice.
Yeah.
But it is difficult to explain if it is difficult to explain, how that equipment is connected with your business activity, the invoice alone does not solve the problem. So for anything that could potentially be questioned, it is a good idea to keep additional evidences showing why that expense was incurred.
So, for example, I work in radio, I buy a €2,000 camera,
exactly.
And they go, but you work in radio, you don't need but I need a camera for my reason, and then you have to have a valid reason. I've just got an email. See, people are listening in on this one quite quick. So, good morning. I am also. I'll keep these anonymous, I think. Okay. Good morning. I am also a slave to the system, Autonomo.
Oh.
Okay. Why is it only certain Autonomos can deduct their shopping at Mercadona, but some others can't? Other supermarkets are available, by the way. Supermarket shopping, I mean...
well...
Again... Is that back to that point you'd have to show?
Exactly.
That your
it is related to your business. For example, imagine that you're gonna
print if you bought printing ink, for example.
Exactly. For example, for your office, because you, for example, water, tea, coffee to offer to your clients.
I could have a hot dog store.
Exactly.
I could.
It's not normal, but you can also. Yes, of course. Okay. Why not?
Okay. What about here's an interesting one then. Okay, working from home. Okay, so I'm working from home, so therefore I would imagine like if I pay rent or I pay, I don't know, taxes on EB or do I have to? Is that going to be deductible? Can I deduct part of what I spend in my house?
Mm-hmm. Yes, but this is an area where people often assume they can deduct more than they actually can.
Okay.
If part of the home is allocated to the economic activity, a proportion of certain costs can potentially be deducted. There are also specific rules for household supplies, such as electricity, water, gas, and telephone or internet. You cannot simply say, I use 20% of my home as an office, so I will deduct 20% of my household bills.
Yeah.
There are a specific calculation for these specific costs. There is also a longer-term point to bear in mind if you own the property, because if part of the property is allocated to your economic activity, that part may receive different tax treatment for a future sale. In particular, the tax treatment of any applicable relief or exemption on the sale can be affected by the fact that the part of the property has been used for business purposes.
Yeah. I'm thinking because if you're using the house as a business property, saying I use it for my business, then that might not. You might have to register that part of the house as a business thing. You go, I'm autonomous, and it's like, and if you're renting, then they could say no, you're not allowed to work from the.
The thing is that it's better when you're renting the house than when you own the house.
Yeah.
Because when you imagine that you're going to sell your house in the future.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of problems with the taxes in the future. Yeah. So it's preferably to rent it than buy.
And also, right, so, but also with property, the VAT or the IRPF, that's different as well with the houses? We have to look at that differently, separately?
Yes, it is important to know that the treatment for VAT and the income tax can be different. You always need to look at the two taxes separately.
Now you're talking about houses and private sort of thing, and I live with teenage girls, internet, mobile phone use. Everybody's on a plano. So with the mobile phone and internet connection, because you can't do business. I remember when I started doing business in the 90s, in England as self-employed, there was the home office, and I've still got pictures of people working from a desk, with a phone, and so it's totally different now.
Exactly.
So mobile phone, internet connections, can I just put those through, all my phone bills through as an autonomo?
Well, it depends on how they are used.
Right.
Okay. Because if you have a telephone line that is used only for your business, the position is much easier to justify.
Yeah.
But, always there is a but, if the same phone is being used for work and personal purpose, you need to be more careful about claiming the whole cost. The same applies to internet services, because this is a good example of the general principle that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The more clearly you can demonstrate that the cost is connected with your business, the stronger is your position.
I mean, I suppose the answer is to have two phones, but if you walk around Marbella with two phones, people are going to think that you're in some sort of other activity.
Yeah.
So let's not even go there. Right. Talk about my favourite thing in the whole world now, okay? Cars. Yeah, you're laughing, but do you know my history with cars? I spent all my time in the mechanic.
Yeah.
The receptionist at my garage, when last time I was there, she was there with her kids, and she said, "Look, mi hijos, here, this is the man who's putting you through college." Okay, so my cars are always in the garage. So this is one of the areas that has again. And I'm thinking as we go. So this is always dangerous for you guys, okay? But I'm thinking as we go, because if you have to justify a part of your house, or you have to justify a part of your internet, or a part of your telephone bill, something tells me that you can't suddenly go, okay, cars. I can go out and I can buy my Ferrari and then write it all off. So there are questions and there is confusion for self-employed. Ladies, enlighten me.
Yeah, cars are probably one of the most complicated areas because the rules of IRPF and VAT are not necessarily the same.
Okay.
For income tax, the rules are particularly restrictive where a vehicle is used both professionally and privately. Simply using your car to visit clients does not mean that you can deduct part of the car and all its running costs.
Yeah.
VAT can be different. These circumstances where a proportion of the VAT on a vehicle can be deducted, depending on the circumstances and the evidence available.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest mistakes is to think, if I use 50% of my car for work, therefore I can deduct 50% of everything.
Yeah.
It's not quite that simple.
That should be the motto for anything to do with autonomo. Rob always says procrastination is not your friend. That's his thing. And here it's not that simple. Now, business trips.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, I went to 3 weeks ago. I did Malaga, Barcelona, Madrid, Malaga, and then to go through the whole. And then I caught the bus too. And imagine trying to get a factura from the guys at the bus.
Yeah.
No. So business trips. If I travel for work, if I'm a grown up, not like me, if I travel for work and stay in a hotel, this is for work. Can these costs be deducted?
Well, genuine business travel can be used as a deductible expenses. That can include, for example, flights, trains, taxis, hotel, and other costs associated with the professional trip, provided that there is a connection with the business activity.
Yeah.
The important thing here is being able to demonstrate why the trip was necessary. If you are traveling to meet a client, attend a professional event, or carry out work somewhere else, keep the supporting documentation, such as, for example, emails, appointment calendars, meeting invitation, and similar records that can all help establish that the business purpose. Ideally, if you are able to issue an invoice for the professional services provided in connection with the trip, this will be the strongest supporting evidence of the business purpose of the travel and the related expenses.
That makes sense, because if you're going on a business trip to Madrid and you're going to stay in this hotel and you've got an email saying, I want to meet you to talk about my proposal about Giles Brown's new hot sauce, then you can do the train, you'll have a thing, we'll meet you in the hotel in Madrid, and that's fine.
It's part of your work.
And two things. And actually I have found that getting facturas from taxis now is much easier. Because back in again, you were children, but back in the 80s, to try and get you could get a cab in the 80s, but to get a factura from a taxi driver was like, but now you stop and you pay by the card and they go, oh, it's okay. Do you want to have a factura? So that is the easy part.
Yeah, it's more common than before.
It's like, but if I go to Las Vegas and I say, well, I'm doing it for research on my rock and roll for my show, that's going to be much more difficult. Okay. All right. Okay, what about something very important to me? Meals, food. Because again, we thought, okay, we're all going to Burger King. Come on, niños, I'll buy you all, mijo. I'll buy you all food. Can we deduct lunches? Is it client dinners? Is it the same kind of idea as we had with the business travel? Is that the same sort of idea?
Yeah, more or less. Okay. But there are specific rules allowing certain subsistence expenses to be deducted. Okay. And there are conditions and limits. For example, there are requirements concerning where the meal takes place and how it is paid. For the autonomous own meals, the general daily limits are around 27 euros per day in Spain when there is no overnight stay, or around 53 euros when there is an overnight stay. For expenses incurred abroad, the limits are around 88 euros with no overnight stay and 91 euros for an overnight stay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you know how there are the different autonomos have autonomous regions have different policies. Mm-hmm. Surely, if I'm on the coast, if I'm in Marbella, 26 euros per day, that will get me half a slice of tortilla in the Marbella club, darling. But, okay, fine. So these are the maximum limits, not automatic allowances, yeah?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, these amounts are not, as you said, are the maximum, but not the allowance.
You can't add them up. Can't. I didn't eat for 4 days, so now I'm going to spend 120, and I'm in. No, okay. Yeah. And these have to be in proper restaurants. I mean, it has to be a recognized restaurant.
The meal must be taken in a restaurant or other establishments, paid by car or phone, ideally. Okay. And the travel must be to a municipality different from the taxpayer, usual workplace and residence. Yes?
Yeah, okay. Question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to pay as an autonomo.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have my client to see my hot sauce, and he's been so impressed by my hot sauce. Yeah. He wants to come to Marbella and taste and see how I make the hot sauce. Mm-hmm. And if I invite him for a meal in Marbella and I am registered in Marbella, then I can't, because it says that must be taken. Oh, to travel. Sorry, the travel must be taken.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Okay.
Difference.
So I can't. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. So having lunch in a restaurant, does it automatically mean I go? It's not, guys. It's on me. I'll take. I can. This is on my autonomo. Please order. Let's go to the 26 euro limit. So it doesn't automatically mean I can deduct it. No.
No, having lunch in a restaurant does not automatically make it a deductible business expense. Yeah. Simply because, as you said, you are a self-employed. If, for example, you spend 35 euros on lunch, without an overnight stay, the deductible amount under the subsistence limit would generally be up to 27 euros.
Okay.
Assuming all the other requirements have already been met. Business with clients should also be properly documented. If there is a genuine business meeting, it is sensible to keep a record of who attended, the date, and what the business purpose was.
Okay.
The client meals are treated differently from the autonomous own daily subsistence expenses.
Okay.
The more usual or substantial the expense, the more important the supporting evidence becomes.
Okay. What about training? And I'll try and keep my questions now to a minimum because we've only got 8.5 minutes. What about training and professional development? I mean, is that something that autonomous often overlook?
Well, training can be deductible when there is a clear connection with the economic activity. This is of particular importance because a course can be personally useful without necessarily being a deductible business expense. For example, imagine that if you are already carrying on a particular professional activity and you undertake training that directly develops or improves that activity, the connection is much easier to demonstrate it. The Spanish tax office has also highlighted the importance of being able to demonstrate the correlation between training and economic activity.
Okay.
So again, it comes down to evidence and the actual circumstances.
Okay. I mean, hopefully we're able to get through everything today, but what are some of the expenses that as an autonomo that we frequently get wrong?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a few recurring problem areas. Expenses with a strong private element are particularly sensitive. Things such as ordinary clothing, personal travels, private entertainment that have not been properly allocated to the business. Cars, as we said, are another major area when a vehicle is used for both business and private purposes. And expenses without proper invoices or where there is no clear connection with the economic activity can also be challenged. A good rule of thumb is this. If you would struggle to explain to the tax office why an expense was necessary for your business, it is probably something that you should look at carefully before claiming it.
Okay, rule of thumb. I like how that's a very British experience. So, what are the new or particularly interesting for autonomos in 2026?
Well, up to this point, we have mainly been talking about expenses and deduction specifically relevant to self-employee or autonomous, okay? But there are also some interesting tax measures in 2026 that are broader and can apply to individuals generally, not just to self-employee. Mm-hmm. One of the most interesting areas in 2026 is the range of tax incentive connected with the cleaner energy and transport. We have incentive relating to the electric vehicles and charging infrastructure, as well as measure connected with the renewable energy, self-consumption, and energy efficiency. But there is important distinction here, okay? Because some of these are specific IRPF tax deduction rather than original deductible business expenses. This is a particularly important for autonomous because you cannot simply assume that because something is environmentally friendly, you can deduct the whole cost from your business income.
Okay, electric cars. Let's get everything being environmentally friendly. What should we know as autonomous about electric cars?
There is a temporary IRPF deduction for the acquisition of qualifying electric vehicles. The deduction is generally 50% of the purchase cost, subject to the applicable condition and limits, and the measure has been extended to qualifying acquisitions through the end of 2026. Mm-hmm. But there is an important point for autonomous. The specific personal deduction is subject to the vehicle not being allocated to an economic activity. So we need to distinguish between two things: whether an individual can benefit from the specific electric vehicle tax deduction, or if a vehicle used in an economic activity is deductible as a business asset. Those are not necessarily the same thing.
Now, a friend's put a charging point, electric charging point in her house. Is this deductible?
Yeah. There is also a specific IRPF deduction for qualifying electric vehicle charging infrastructure, okay? For qualifying installation complete in the year 2026, the deduction is the 50% of the relevant expenditure, with a maximum annual deduction base of 4,000 euros.
That's 15%. Okay,
yep.
yeah.
Again, this is a specific tax incentive. It does not simply mean that an autonomous can deduct the entire installation as a business expense. And this distinction between the tax deduction and a business expense is becoming increasingly important as this environmental incentive develop.
Solar panels, they're much more common. Anything new about solar panels in 2026?
Actually, yes. This is one of the most interesting developments because there is a new IRPF deduction for qualifying renewable energy electricity self-consumption installations. Depending on the circumstances, the deduction can be 10 or 20% of qualifying expenditure, subject to the applicable condition, and with an annual deduction based up to 5,000 euros. This could be particularly interesting for people who work from home and are considering installing solar panels. But again, we need to be careful with the terminology. We should not automatically describe the whole cost of installing solar panels as a deductible business expense. It is a specific tax incentive with its own rules, and the circumstances of their property and the installation need to be considered.
Are there any sort of incentives for improving the energy efficiency of a property?
Yes, there are deductions for certain qualified energy efficiency improvements. Depending on the type of work and the improvement achieved, the relevant deduction can be 20, 40, or 60%. Okay?
Wow, okay.
This can be particularly relevant for people investing in improvements such as insulation or other measures that reduce energy consumption. Okay? Again, someone working from home needs to be careful because these residential energy efficiency deductions are not simply the same as deducting an ordinary business expense. We need to look at what the investment is, where it's carried out, and how the property is being used.
And is this the same everywhere in Spain?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
And this is an important point because the rules we have been discussing apply primarily to taxpayers under the general Spanish tax regime. There are some important regional differences. For example, in Álava, Vizcaya, and Guipúzcoa, there is a separate tax system with its own rules. This means that the deduction is available to a self-employed person can be different from those under the general Spanish tax regime. And also, the Canary Islands also have a special tax regime with a specific investment incentive and other tax measures. At Spence Clarke, we actually have clients and cases under each of these regimes, so we are familiar with the practical differences and the specific rules that can apply. So if you are self-employed in one of these territories, it is important to check the specific regional rules rather than assuming that the general Spanish rules apply.
We've got 1 minute.
Yeah.
Okay, a few practical tips in 55 seconds. Go.
Well, without pressure, Well, first, do not claim something simply because it feels like a business expense. Ask first yourself whether you can clearly demonstrate the connection with your economic activity. Second, keep your records, keep your invoices, proof of payments, and where appropriate evidence explaining to the business purpose, particularly for travel, meals, vehicles, and other mixed-use purpose. And third, always distinguish between IRPF and VAT. An expense can have one treatment for income tax and different treatment for VAT. And finally, perhaps the most important point is not to wait until the tax return to think about these things. Yeah. If you are planning a significant purchase, a vehicle, solar panels, or whatever, it is much better to check the tax treatment before making this investment. That way, you know what you can actually claim. And if you're not sure, just give us a call at Spence Clarke. We're always happy to have a chat and help you in the right now to start.
Cristina and Maria, thank you so much for your time today.